We witness chaos in our streets and public squares. What really are we seeing? Hi, I'm Rex Rogers, and this is episode number 213 of Discerning What is Best, a podcast applying unchanging biblical principles in a rapidly changing world and a Christian worldview to current issues in everyday life. American society is polarized. We are daily beset with incidents in which one group, whatever the name or identity, faces another across a public square or on campuses, in the middle of highways or street intersections. These groups decry some perceived great injustice that is happening to them, or often some other victim group du jour. It seems no one is content. Certainly no one is pleased or even just optimistic. But seemingly everyone in the street or online are unhappy and convinced they are the victim of some great, if often manufactured, wrong or inequity. We see this regarding social class, the have-nots versus the haves, regarding race, sex or gender, climate change, or just anti-Trump. What we need to understand is that what we are seeing is the manifestation of a deeper problem. What I mean is the issues or the cause about which American society is fighting, at least for the progressive left, are not really the issues or the cause at all. An SDS radical once wrote, "The issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution." In other words, the cause, whether inner-city blacks or women, is never the real cause, but only an occasion to advance the real cause, which is the accumulation of power to make the revolution. So what we're seeing is that the issue we see in the streets is only a means to an end, and the end is chaos, which the progressive left believes will lead to their power. Now, this all sounds like political or philosophic mumbo-jumbo, but I assure you it is not. This is as real as it gets. Before I proceed, there's another thing we need to understand, that some of our old and still used political vocabulary is out of date. Please note that there is a difference between liberals and the new left or progressives of the 2020s. Classical liberals believe in big government, which means taxes and regulations. Liberals believe the color of a person's skin is insignificant, doesn't matter. They are committed to racial integration. They are often pro-capitalist, and they favor free enterprise as the best way to lift people from poverty. They are usually patriotic and believe in America. Now, I know so-called liberals have been featured on media in recent days questioning all these values. But historically, at least, this characterization is accurate. Now, more often, we hear on media from the new left. They might be called liberals, but they are the new left, the loud and proud. People like Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, or Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman from Texas, or Ilhan Omar, Congresswoman from Minnesota, or Rashida Tlaib from Michigan. There are many more than this, including former VP Kamala Harris or Governor Gavin Newsom of California. These individuals call themselves progressives, are sometimes called liberals, but they're not. The new left is now dominant in the Democrat Party, is the chief opposition not simply to Republicans, but also to much that is historically American, and in many ways are anti-American. They focus on cultural or social issues like sexuality, climate change, and social justice. Their focus is on means rather than ends, and therefore they are not bound by organizational orthodoxies in the way their admired Marxist forebears were. Within the framework of their revolutionary agenda, they are flexible and opportunistic and will say anything and pretend to be anything to get what they want, which is resources and power. The new left or progressives is what conservatives and Christians need to learn more about. They are quite literally everywhere, at every level of government and society, and their plan to integrate and destroy from within has been enormously successful, including in education, kindergarten through graduate school. Propagandists, posing as teachers and professors, are brainwashing legions of hapless kids looking for purpose. Millions of kids enroll in colleges and universities looking for an education, but end up with indoctrination. The new left or progressives consider incidents or issues nothing more than a convenient reason to destroy, and more importantly, to further their goal, the destruction of Western civilization. and to fuel the incipient rise of communism in the United States. Now, the intellectual North Star of the New Left is a late radical political activist named Saul Alinsky, who argued for the strategy of deception that he devised to promote social change. He recommended, don't sell it as socialism, sell it as progressivism, economic democracy, and social justice. The strategy of working within the system until you can accumulate enough power to destroy it. Now, what this amounts to in practice is political nihilism, a destructive assault on the established order. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Bernie Sanders are a few of Alinsky's leading adherents. Since they're older than AOC, these polls send off a mixed message of old liberalism, old left, and attempts at new left posturing. Radicals, the new left, now work at a kind of fifth column infiltration, incrementalism, slow but sure revolution. Radicals camouflage their agenda by calling themselves at different times communists, socialists, new leftists, liberals even, social justice activists, and most consistently, progressives. They are willing to use any means, unethical, illegal, and immoral, even violent behavior, to accomplish their goal, and the goal is always power, always the revolution. That's why the issue we see protested in the streets is not really the issue. It's just a means to an end, chaos, which leads to power for the revolution. The issue is the revolution. Former radical and author David Horowitz said this about Alinsky. Recall how Satan tempted Adam and Eve to destroy their paradise. If you will rebel against God's command, then you shall be as gods. This is the radical hubris. We can create a new world. Through our political power, we can make a new race of men and women who will live in harmony and peace and according to the principles of social justice. Karl Marx thought that. Progressives think that today. No matter that the history of socialist totalitarianism in the 20th and now 21st century is a record of hundreds of millions of deaths in the Soviet Union, China, and elsewhere in the world. People do not matter. Power matters. The issue is the revolution, because in creating it, the radical becomes a god. Conservatives think of war as a metaphor when they apply it to politics. For radicals, the war is real. That is why when partisans of the left go into battle, they set out to destroy their opponents by stigmatizing them as racist, sexist, homophobes, Islamophobes. It is also why they so often pretend to be what they are not, liberals, for example, and rarely say what they mean. Deception for them is a military tactic in a war that is designed to eliminate the enemy. For radical new left progressives, politics is a zero-sum exercise because, again, it's war. No matter what these radicals say publicly and how moderate they appear, they are at war. They've been taught to be so. So as we watch the chaos in our polarized streets, we should remember that what we are seeing, the issue, is not the left's goal. The issue is not the issue. They do not often admit it, but they are at war, and in war there is no compromise, no quarter. One side is fighting with a no-holds-barred, take-no-prisoners battle plan against the system, while the other, conservatives, is trying to enforce its rules of fairness and pluralism. Remember Dostoevsky? He famously wrote that if God does not exist, then everything is permitted. What he meant was that if human beings do not have a conception of good that is outside themselves, then they will act as gods with nothing to restrain them. Conservatives and Christians who believe in rules must awaken to the fact that their opposition knows no rules. For new left progressives, the issue is not the issue. The revolution is the issue. Well, we'll see you again soon. This podcast is about discerning what is best. If you find this thought-provoking helpful, follow us on your favorite podcast platform. For more Christian commentary, see my website, REXM as in Martin, that's rexmrogers.com, or check my YouTube channel at Dr. Rex Rogers. And remember, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm.